NXT starts off with Obafemi. He ends up cutting a promo, starts off with him mentioning NXT Deadline, mentioning him regaining the NXT Championship, and then he eventually moves on to mentioning Cody Rhodes at Saturday Night's main event. Ricky Saints comes out, ends up mentioning that Oba was the better man at Saturday Night's main event, and then he ends up mentioning that he started losing doubt, losing confidence. Is he really good enough? But then he ends up realizing who he truly is and ends up wanting another title shot. Jevon Evans comes out, interrupts, and he ends up mentioning winning the Iron Survivor and ends up saying that why wait until New Year's Eve when he could just cash in his championship opportunity on tonight's show. Ricky Saints tries to convince him to just wait until he defeats Oba, so that way they can face each other and that there's no rush and that is he really sure if he wants to cash in his opportunity. Jevon Evans ends up saying that he's tired of waiting, he's tired of people doubting him, tired of people asking him does he know what's the best decision for him. He knows what's best for him and that he's ready for the opportunity. And he ends up saying that he came close to beating Oba once and he knows that he can beat Oba. Oba ends up agreeing to the match, which eventually does lead to the main event. Great main event. These two, man, I could watch them fight damn near every single day, bro. Like, these two are just amazing. Their chemistry is immaculate. But Obafemi does end up retaining the NXT Championship due to Ricky Saints costing Jevon Evans the match. Jevon Evans was getting the upper hand and he almost had Oba beat, but then Ricky Saints is pulling the referee, preventing the 3 count. Jevon Evans ended up doing a suicide dive to take out Ricky, but this allowed Obafemi to retain his NXT Championship. I like what they're doing here. I like the story that they're telling of Jevon Evans constantly getting closer, and closer to beating Obafemi to become NXT champion, but constantly something keeps getting in the way. Last time the foot thing was on his foot was underneath the rope the last time. This time Ricky Saints cost him the match. Plus, this gives Jevon Evans another obstacle. I cannot speak. Another obstacle that he has to face in order to get to Obafemi. I like what they're doing. I like him continuing to chase and chase and chase, having us fans constantly beg and constantly clamor to want Jevon Evans to win a NXT Championship. It's just going to make it a bigger moment whenever he does win the NXT Championship. Plus, the Jevon Evans and Ricky Saints feud should be great. Having Ricky Saints be this jealous friend that is jealous of Jevon Evans because he could potentially take the opportunity away from him to become NXT champion. I like what they're doing here, and Ricky Saints is better as a heel. There's multiple ways you could go about doing this feud. You could easily have Ricky Jevon's feud for a bit, have multiple singles matches, drag it out a bit, and then you could even have a triple threat match at one point for the NXT championship between Jevon, Ricky, and Oba, and then eventually Jevon Evans getting his big moment at Stand and Deliver. Because it's very obvious that they're going to have Oba become the state NXT champion until at least Stand and Deliver. So I'm very interested to see how this all plays out. I'm very interested in this story. I love what they've been doing with this whole Jevon Evans, Oba, Femby feud. So very interested to see how this all unfolds. We get a quick segment with Tana Paxley. She ends up mentioning Izzy Dane, ends up saying that Izzy Dane wants her to get rid of the little naive, insecure girl and that she's finally gotten rid of her, and she ends up saying that now she has nothing to lose, but Izzy Dane does, and she ends up bringing out 2 dolls that look like Shawn Spears and Nico, and she ends up alluding to that she's going to get rid of both of them so that way she can finally get Izzy all to herself. I like what they're doing here. I like the story that they're telling here. I like that they're potentially telling the story of Tatum becoming her own woman, becoming this more confident woman who doesn't need to rely on a friend, that doesn't need to rely on another person, that can stand on her own 2 feet. I'm hoping they tell that story. Hope they tell that story with Tana Paxley, because I do think that's the next story to tell with Tana Paxley. Her being a more confident, more assertive, a more, a woman that able to stand on her own, a woman that doesn't need others to feel appreciated, to feel confident in herself. So I'm hoping that's what they tell here. Interested to see how they tell the story of her getting rid of Nico and Shawn, because WWE has no problem with women hitting men, so is she just going to attack them backstage? I highly doubt it's going to lead to a match, so interested to see what's her actual plan here, but nonetheless, I've been enjoying it. I'm enjoying this feud. It's one of the main things I look forward to in NXT, especially with Izzy Dane, her development, so I'm very interested to see how this all unfolds. We knew getting a singles match between Kalani Jordan Grace. This match was really good, really enjoyed this match. Towards the end of the match, you end up getting Jordan Grace, ended up crashing out a bit, getting a steel chair, but she eventually puts it down. This allowed Kalani Jordan to pick up the victory because she takes advantage, ends up hitting a big boot, sending her all the way into the barricade, and then ends up picking up the victory. I like what they're doing with this story, with Kalani Jordan being this more arrogant heel, and then you have Jordan Grace being this babyface who's contemplating whether or not she's good enough to be in NXT, constantly reminiscing of the days of her in TNA being this dominant force. Now she's not that dominant force in NXT. I like what they're going here. I don't know how long they're going to play that story with Jordynne Grace. Is they going to turn her heel? Don't know, because I don't see her winning championship gold anytime soon, because she's not beating Jacy Jayne. And if Kendall Gray wins, I don't see her beating Kendall Gray either. And I don't see her beating Blake Morrow. So I don't know what you do with her, Jordynne Grace, but I do like the story they're telling. And I'm loving this new heel Kalani. This heel Kalani is becoming one of my favorite characters in NXT, which I never thought, because I could have been one of the biggest Kalani haters for the past 2 years. But Kalani Jordan, this heel run she's going on has been nothing but great. I've been enjoying it. I'm very interested to see what they do next with this heel run. I hope they continue this feud, because I don't think this feud should end, to be honest with you. I think they should continue it, because I don't know where these women go after this feud, to be honest with you. So I hope they actually continue this feud. I'm very interested to see what's next for Kalani and Jordynne Grace. We do get a quick Blake Morrow segment. She wanted an open challenge. She wanted an open challenge for a North American Championship. All the women from the NXT locker room come out. Then you get Thea Hale comes from out of nowhere, puts her in an arm lock, makes her tap out, but the referee never made the match official, and Thea Hale was running around acting like she won. This segment was so bad and so dumb. So next week they're going to have a North American Championship match, which I don't understand, but sure. It's like, why is Thea Hale celebrating when clearly she knows that the bell has to ring? Like, I don't understand that. Like, come on. Like, we all know the bell has to ring. Like, that segment was just poorly executed. It was bad. They could have came up with another way if they really wanted Thea Hale to be in that spot. Like, the way they went about it was just bad. This was not a good segment at all. This was bad booking. I ain't gonna lie. I get what they was going for, but this was bad. Like, that was bad booking. I'm sorry, that was bad booking. Interested to see how the match plays out. The match should be good, but Blake Morrow should be retaining, but that segment was terrible. All right, we get Ethan Page. Ethan Page cuts a very good promo. He basically just talks his shit, basically, about how he's that guy, basically. I'm not going to go in depth in the promo. Then we get Tony D'Angelo does the same thing he did to Jevon Evans at Deadline. He attacks Ethan Page with a chokeslam. I don't know what we're doing with Tony D'Angelo. I like Tony D'Angelo. I just don't know what we're doing. Now, it's only been like a couple days since he returned, so I'm not really like rushing it. But this is a bit confusing, because at first he attacked Jevon, stared down Ova. Now he attacking Ethan Page. It's like, what are we doing? Is he a babyface? Is he a heel? Is he a tweener? Is he going after the North American Championship? Is he going after the NXT Championship? Who knows? I'm interested because it's Tony D. I like Tony D. But it's like, what are we doing here? I just wish it was a more clear direction. It's like, now asking questions isn't a bad thing, but it's only bad when it's like asking questions in a more confusing sense, not in a more interested sense. Like, this could go multiple ways. This is more like I'm just confused. So I'm still interested to see where this goes, but I'm just a bit confused and shocked, if I'm being honest. Now we're going to mention the main thing I want to talk about was Jacy Jayne, Fatal Influence, and the Kendall Gray promo. This promo was basically Jacy Jayne basically talking her shit, basically talking about how she's basically that bitch, and that she's on top, and that Kendall Gray has no shot. Kendall Gray basically ends up responding back with the same thing Tatum Paxley did with Jacy Jayne, basically telling her that she's the underdog and that no one expected her to become NXT champion against Stephanie. So this is the same. They're basically telling the same story that they told with Tatum Paxley, basically. I will say, Kendall Gray was decent on the microphone. She wasn't bad. That was my main concern with having her win the Iron Survivor. I was like, hopefully she could cut a promo. She was actually not that bad. She was decent, okay? I'm going to give it another week before I come to the conclusion of my opinion on her. But afterwards, Fatal Influence attack, they stand tall, which was the correct choice. I am interested in this. I'm going to give it another week. I got to see how next week plays out. But so far, I'm impressed with the promo. It wasn't a great promo. It was serviceable. It was solid though. It was solid. Like, I give it like a 6.5 out of 10, maybe a 7. But it was a solid promo. I'm interested to see where this goes. I don't want Jacy Jayne to lose, but that's just me being biased, being a Jacy Jayne fan. But if Kendall Gray impresses me next week, I have no issue with her dethroning her, to be honest, because she's great in the ring and she could cut a decent promo. That's all I could ask for. That's really all I could ask for. But nonetheless, this was a decent episode in NXT. Wasn't the best, wasn't bad. It was better than Raw, I would say. It was better than Raw, but it wasn't as good as the previous weeks, but this was a decent show overall. But you guys let me know your overall thoughts and opinions down below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my content. But yeah, that's it.